Good evening, everyone. My name's Fiona. This is Elio Moon Arts. Tonight, I'm going to do a design team for Couture Creations piece. So this is actually this has been stamped onto some blending, alcohol blending paper, some ink blending paper. What do they call them? Marker blenders. I think there's a few other names for them, but that's what this paper is. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to use some alcohol inks, and I'm going to have a go at using them with this. And I've got these little blending sticks, which is also a Couture Creations product. I'm going to use some of these, and I'm going to see how they go. And if that's not as successful as what I need, I'm going to actually just turn over and go to a brush. So I have a few different brushes here. This one's a number 3. I can never read the numbers on half of these ones. I think this one is a number 1, and this other, that might be a number 2, and this one might be a number 1. So I just want some small brushes. I've got my little pot, if I can find it. Yep, my little pot here, which I'll have alcohol in. So I'm going to use isopropyl alcohol. Couture Creations have their own brand of isopropyl alcohol. I might actually also get some blending solution, because that might work better for this project, I think. So this is Couture Creations blending solution, and I'm going to see which one I like better to use when I'm doing this project. Blending solution will actually keep the inks wet a little bit longer, and this may not absorb into the paper as quickly as isopropyl alcohol. So that's why I've decided I think I'll try the blending solution again and see how we go with that. So this has been stamped. I can't think of the name of the stamp. Just give me 2 seconds. I'll just see if I can find some information on it. Now, I don't have the information with me right now, but this is it's an outline ink. So it's actually designed so that once you've stamped it, you can actually then go in and colour in over the top of it and put a wet media over the top of it, and it won't move, is basically what this is doing. It comes in, I think, 3 colours from my understanding. I think it comes in a black, a grey and a pink, but it's an outline only sort of ink, so it'll just outline these, and it won't move when I use some alcohol or blending solution on it. So that's where we're headed with this tonight. So I'm going to start off by doing the basket on this. I don't know whether you can see this very well. I'll just put it up here a bit closer. So it's actually a beautiful image. Now this stamp is, I do have the information for it. It is called Tulips Stamp and Colour Set, and it's the Vintage Bloom Stamp and Colour Sets. So this is another one. I did do one the other day on, and I was using the Daffodil one, and I used part of it to create some ephemera. And the other one was called, and I'll just get you the name of it while I've got my paperwork here. It is called Daffodil Stamp and Colour Set, was the other one that I used the other day. Okay, and I'll try and link that into this video in the description box when I'm done. Okay, so let's start off. I'm actually going to start with my basket first. I've not decided as to whether I'm going to put a background in on this yet, and we'll just see how this goes. So I'm going to put some blending solution into my little pot. When I use my inks, I'll actually put them directly onto this glass mat. So this is a Couture Creations glass mat. I love this thing. It makes alcohol inking a bit of a dream, actually. I've also got some baby wipes here. These are an Aldi brand one. I like these because they actually do have an alcohol base and they do clean up things quite easily. So let's grab, where did I put that one? There it is. So I'm just going to grab one of these. Got a few of them in here. I'm just going to grab a couple more out because I want them for a few different colours. Okay, so I'm going to start off by doing a basket. I'm going to grab some butterscotch, which I think is now called honey. I think they changed their names of some of their... Oh, I was going to grab butterscotch, but there ain't none in that. So I'll grab honey instead. Okay, that's Goldfish, Dandelion, Amber. When I can find it. It's in here somewhere. I had it out before. Oh, there it is, honey. So which is pretty much the same colour as the butterscotch. So I'm going to use honey, and I'm debating on whether to use a bit of either teakwood or sienna. I'm not sure which one yet. I'll have a play with it and see how it goes. So I'm just going to dip my blending tool into a bit of the blending solution first. Then I'm just going to pick up a bit of the honey, and I'm just going to start covering my basket with it. And I'm just going to cover the whole thing, and then I'll come back in with that other colour and create some shadows on here. So you can see that that's going on quite nicely. I'm just adding a little bit more of the blending solution here just to get it nice and smooth. You see that's gone on beautifully. And that bit of blending solution, I think blending solution was the right way to go tonight as well. I think it's actually worked a little better than what the isopropyl alcohol would have done in this instance. So by doing it on these blending cards, I also find that the ink actually absorbs into it a lot quicker, into the actual card. So it's more like it's more papery, unlike when you use UPO and synthetic papers, which is a totally different thing altogether. So I'm just trying to get this all done. These are quite good. These are getting into the nice little spots. Put some more down in a minute. The other thing I like about this mat, using this mat, is the fact that you just put a drop of ink down at a time, and there's a lot less wastage. I find I don't have a lot of wastage when I use this mat. Not that I have a lot of wastage from it anyway, because a lot of the time I will put it into a palette of some sort and come back and reuse it. A friend of mine has actually just started to, she went to the op shop. What did she grab? She grabbed, my one sitting here. I'll just grab it for you if I can find it. But she got, it was a small ice cube tray. It's probably about that wide. And it's got quite a few holes in it. And she has been using that for her, to use as a palette for her alcohol inks. So what she's done is she's got a marker, a permanent marker, and she's actually marked on this, on the top of it, what each colour was that she's put in there. And she's got extra wells there so she can blend colours. So if you don't have a colour that's quite matching what you want, you can actually blend your own colours with alcohol inks, the same as you can with paints. The thing that you do have to be a little bit careful with when doing that is that some of these alcohol inks are made up of more than one pigment. So sometimes you may end up with not quite what you're after, because there might be another colour involved in the making of it. So I'm just putting the blending solution on first, and then I'm going to come in with my ink. It's a pretty colour, this. So I think when I when we get round to this, when I start. So on this basket, I'm actually going to put a darker colour in there in some spots just to give it that, give it some shape and shadow. When I do that, I think I'll be mixing this honey colour in with possibly a bit of sienna or teakwood, just to give it a little bit more, just to change the colour up a little bit. I just want it more this honey colour than the red that they have in the teakwood. So it does have quite a... And as you can see, as I'm doing this, none of that ink, the outline ink, has actually moved as I've gone over it. It's really nice. I've actually just ordered some of the outline inks myself because I wanted a few different colours that they have in it. So I'm just going to put this around the top. And there's still a bit of colour in my this applicator tip that I'm using. So I might not add too much colour in. I might add the colour in here to darken this bit up. And put some blending solution on and then just blend that across. Add a little bit of darkness here. A little bit here. And just blend them across into the centre, because you'd have light hitting up the front of that from the look of this picture. Okay, so that's our basket nearly done. Just going to grab a little bit of this. I think I'm going to use teakwood. No, I'm going to go with espresso actually. So I've used honey and now I'm using a little bit of espresso. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some espresso, I'm going to pull it over here, I'm going to grab some of this honey and I'm going to mix the two together. And this will help to create my dark. So let's have a look. So I want some dark in this spot here, down here, a bit here. Just going to dip into my blending solution and I'm just going to blend that little bit of dark out. A bit more on this one here. Just blending that out as you go. Okay, there's a little spot just in here that needs to be dark. I'm just going to darken that up and then just blend it a little bit. Make a little bit more of this colour. And you'll see on these, it actually shows you where the dark should be. It's sort of got like that bit of pen work on it that denotes that bit's supposed to be dark. So I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to blend this. And like I said, I'm just using blending solution to do this. And that's the Couture Creations one. And just need a little bit more on this bottom part here. And this will help to create some dimension in your piece. Let's get a bit of blending solution and blend that out. I'm going to take a little bit more of it and I'm going to mix them and get together again. And I'm going to take some of this dark and I'm just going to put it in those areas that we put it in before. So I just want them a little darker than what they are. Blend them across. A little bit of that, get that through there. You can see now that this is starting to actually have a little bit of form, starting to give it a bit more of a 3D effect. Probably I'm going to have to put a background in as well because it will need something to ground it. So I'm just mixing those espresso and the honey together again, and I'm just coming back in to do these other shadows. There's a little bit here, A little bit there, under here, a little bit over here. So now that's got a little bit more. I just think I need a little bit more here. It's just not quite dark enough. It's not giving me enough. So now I'm just using straight espresso on those darker spots, and then I'll just blend that in. And because I still want that yellowiness from the honey, I'm just going to go back over. I'm just going to flip this around this way. I'm just going to go all over that. Just blend that all the way in, because that'll be quite dark because of what's sitting on top of it too, that band. I'm just going to come back in and add a little bit of just the honey in a couple of spots. And as you can see, so far I've only used the one little blending tool. Okay, so that's our basket done. And this blending tool's holding up very well. So I like these. These are actually holding up quite well. Which window of my camera out? There we go. So these are holding up quite well. These little tips. I think they're like a microfiber type stuff, like a texture, like you would use with a texture or an alcohol ink marker. So now we're going to move on to our greens. Now we're going to need a few different greens because we're wanting to create some depth in this. So I may even mix up my own green a little bit. So I'm going to grab some cerulean blue. I'm going to grab Kiwi. And I might grab some Botanical as well. So Botanical is the other one that I'm going to use. So to start off with, I'm going to go with my lightest colour. So I'm going to put that all over. So I'm just going to pop that down first. Just going to dip my little brush thing in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this an all over colour with this Kiwi. This is my lightest colour. And I'm still using that same tip. I am noticing that the tip's starting to soften though now. So I'm just wanting to grab all these green leaves that we've got here. And once again on this piece, you'll see that they've got these little lines up here. It's just denoting that it needs to be darker in those spots. And anything that's on the underside of these leaves will obviously be darker as well, because that'll have a shadow from the top of the leaf. So this piece here that's curled up, it's coming into the light, and so this piece in here needs to be a little darker, and this piece under here will be darker. And I'm purely just dipping into the ink and between the ink and the blending solution still at this stage. There. Coming up into these pieces up here now. I'm just going to flip this around. There's a piece there that I've missed. So there may be pieces that I'll miss in this as I go, and then I might have to come back to this green, which is not a drama. I can manage that. There's another piece up in here. So that's why I've turned it around so that I can see it better. Okay, so there's the first part of, oh, there's another piece there. Let me grab this piece here. Okay. I also want to be very mindful and very careful about not getting any of this colour into the flowers that are there. And I'm just rinsing and cleaning off my my tip as I go as well, so I can use that in another colour. So these clean up quite all right. So now I'm going to go with a little bit of Botanical. Whereas this Kiwi is more a yellow-green, this Botanical is more a blue-green. And there's another one, I think it's called, I don't know whether it's in this range. I've got a mint as well. Shamrock is another one that they have in this range. So, and I'm just going to mix it with a little bit of this green that we used before, just because I want the, just in here. Now I'm just going to grab a bit of blending solution on my little tip. And I'm just blending that colour down there a little bit. Just blending that in. I might add a little bit of that on the very tip of this here. This one is going to have some underneath it here, in this spot here, and the further away from the light that it is. I'm just going to blend that down through there. And so this one here, it needs to have a blend of both these colours because it's going to have cast shadow from this flower here down onto this one here. So I've got a colour, mix a couple of them together. I'm just going to give it a little bit under here. Put it in the blending solution and then I'll just blend them together. Might need to go over with just a bit more Kiwi on this side. Okay, so I'm just going to grab a little bit of the Botanical again, just put a little bit in here, a little bit in there. Okay, and I'll just continue doing this until I've got all this greenery done. So anybody that's learning with art and things like that, especially if you're very new to it, this is a great way to learn about shadows. And just purely by the way this has been drawn, you can actually see where the shadows and where the darker colours are going to be in it. So now to decide on what we're going to do with, that one still needs a little bit of dark green up there. That darker green. Bring that in there. Just a bit here. A bit of the dark here and here. And then I'm going to clean that off. Just grab some of this lighter green, bring it up through the top and blend the two together. Okay, bit there. Get some dark in there. So the next piece I'm going to do is actually the butterfly, because it's sitting on the top of all of those underneath ones. And I'm actually going to grab a new tip for this because I want something that's really quite firm. So see how this one's got a really good point on it, because I've been brushing with the other ones. They do wear out. So now to decide on my butterfly colours. So I might have a blue butterfly. So I've got this cerulean blue, so I'm going to use some of it. I'll need a lighter blue as well. I think this Caribbean might be a nice one to use as well. So I'm also going to pop a little bit more of the blending solution into here. Just going to put that there. I'm just going to grab my lighter blue first. Now this tip is a lot firmer than the last one because it's a much newer tip. I'm being very careful. That's a Caribbean. And I'm just doing those inner bits in this Caribbean. And I might have some orange highlights in this one as well. I'm going to put some of the darker blue in, and I'll also put a little bit of orange, I think. A little bit of this dark. I'm going to put it in this. Just where the butterfly wings meets the body. Just want a little bit of darkness in there, just to give it a little bit of depth. And then on this outer part of the, just wanting to, I'm going to get a bit of alcohol, a bit of blending solution on there, a little bit of the cerulean, and I'm just going to very carefully bring that down and around those little shapes on his wings. I might even use a pen to get into some of these little shapes. Okay, so that's the first part done. Let's spin it around, so I put it on this side so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to go around the edge, just bring that down a little bit into that ring. Okay, so now we're getting a little bit of darker detail in our butterfly. I'm just going to come around this edge here, some blending solution on there. I'm just going to come around this edge here. You do need to be a little bit careful about how much blending solution you've got on your brush when you're using these, because they do hold quite a bit. And you're not wanting to have too much on there that it's going to spread. Although on this paper it doesn't tend to spread as much, like I said before, unlike what it does on Yupo and other synthetic papers. So now we've got a beautiful blue butterfly. Now I'm just going to clean this off. Now I have to make sure that this is cleaned right off this time, because I might go back to using the other one. when orange and blue meet together, they're going to make mud. Even though they're opposites on the colour wheel, so they're complementary to each other, but they don't like each other when they're together too much. So I'm going to have a look at, what have we got? Goldfish. Let's see what this is like. Actually, I haven't used this colour yet. I bought it. Okay, so I'm just going to wick up a little bit of that orange, and I'm just going to put it here on the wing. A little bit on this one. Just in those little spots there. I might even just make the body this little orangey colour with our butterfly. Okay, so that's our butterfly done. Now to start working on our tulips. Okay, what am I going to do with those? I think while I've still got my green one here, I'm going to grab a darker green, or I'm going to create a darker green. So I'm going to use some Botanical. What's that one there? I'm going to use Botanical, and I'm going to dip it into some blending solution, and I'm going to grab some of this cerulean and load my brush with it. Mix the two of them together and hopefully get a slightly deeper colour. So I'm going to, it's still more blue than green. That's better. So I'm wanting to create a really deep green to mark the stems of our tulips. Excuse me. Okay, there's another bit up there, so let's go with this here. A little bit of stem here. Now I just want to make sure that that colour is really dark and put it up into where it joins at the flower, because that's going to be our darkest spot on these stems. Okay. Let's grab a bit more blending solution. Finish cleaning this brush off. Okay. So I think I'm going to go with, do I want pink? No. I might use wine and I might use ruby. So I'm going to use ruby, the wine as my dark areas at the base of the flowers and in this centerpiece. And I'm going to use the ruby as the base colour for our flowers. And now I might mix a few of these other colours that I've already got in on my mat into these as well, depending on what I see and what I feel at the time. Because that's basically what I do most of the time. Is I don't normally have a plan. I just get in there and I use colours, and then I mix them all together and get what I get. So let's start with our ruby, because that's our bright. Now I don't want to get this red on those little stamens in the centre of this flower. I'm wanting to try and keep away from that and avoid them. I may have to come in with an alcoholic marker to actually colour those stamens at the top, because I don't even think I could do that with the brush. It's a bit small, that area. Okay. Okay, so now I'm just going to dip into a bit of that wine. I'm going to bring that right in at the base here to create some depth and dark in there. A little bit of blending solution and start blending that out a little bit. A little bit of it up here where the two petals cross over each other. A little bit more down in here. Okay, so the piece in here needs to be a little darker. Okay, push that out. So with some of these little ones here, what I want to do is I want to grab a little bit of that honey. Because these are not going to be full colour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little bit of the honey, a little bit of the ruby, and I'm just going to blend a little bit of it together. And I'm just wanting to hit the very tips of these with this colour, so you can see that that's the colour that's going to come through there. But on these outer bits, I think I'm going to make them, it's just on these little buds, I'm going to make the buds a little bit greener on the outside, because they're not open yet. And so if I want this ruby that I'm placing on here to fade out a bit more, I just grab a little bit more of the blending solution I added on, and it'll actually dilute it a little bit and give me a lot softer, more muted colour. So now I'm going to grab some of that wine and I'm just going to pop it in at the bottom here. Let's blend that up a little bit. Then I want a little bit of green, but I think I'll use a different thing for that. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of this the Kiwi and Botanical mixed together, just so that there's little bits of green still popping in there. Same with these ones here, a little bit of green in these. These outer petals. Pick up a little bit of that blue-green. Just pop it in the base. It looks like it's part of that leaf too. So in here, this is part of the greenery. I'm going to make that a little darker, that piece, because it's got bits of light, but it's got lots of cast shadow on it. Okay, just found another stem under here. Okay, let's continue on with our tulips. So when this piece was given to me, somebody had already stamped it out for me, which was great because I don't do a lot of stamping, so I absolutely love that. Somebody thought about that when they sent this, when the team sent this to me. But they've stamped it on the front here, and they've also stamped it on the back. And this is the other thing you've got to look for. So I probably should have put a piece of baking paper or something in between that, which I might do right now. I never even thought about it bleeding through. What have I got that I can put in there? Just off the top of my head. Okay, I'll just use this. Hold this back on itself. I'm just going to slip this in here. And that should stop it from bleeding all the way through onto the other side. So we're going to go back to this. We're going to start using the ruby and the wine to create these beautiful flowers. Okay, let's go back into the ruby. So just got to be careful around the edge of that butterfly. I'm doing this one. Let's put a bit more of this ruby down. One thing I do like about doing it on this paper is it gives you some pretty natural highlights on it. So the more blending solution and the more I blend this out, so in some spots are getting lighter, which is really quite nice. It's not making me have to work very hard to get what I'm wanting from it. Just going to add a little bit of that wine into the bottom of this. Okay, a little bit more blending solution. Let's go back into our ruby again. Start pulling this up this way this time. And the other thing to do when you're also to think about when you're painting anything like a flower is to make sure that your strokes are going in the natural direction of the flower itself. So these petals, we can see they curve up. So when I use my brush, I'm also curving in the same direction as what they would be. And it just helps with form. Okay. Back into our red again. See, I'm being very careful, and I don't have a lot of blending solution on this brush at the moment because I need to be very careful going around the edge of that butterfly wing. Now I'm looking at the inside of that petal. It's got quite a bit of dark there, so I'm just going to go straight into the wine and bring it down into there. Pop a brightness in here. Okay, same on this side in this little spot here. I'm just going to go with the red, with the ruby on this one. And I'm going to keep it quite unsaturated, so I'm not going to put a lot of blending solution into it. Okay, so this time I'm going to use a fair bit of blending solution on my brush, and I'm just going to draw this up here. I'll make this one a little darker on this side. Now the reason I've made that a little darker, I'm just going to blend that across, blend it out, is because I want to be able to distinguish between each individual flower. Just putting these darks in the bottom, bit of the wine over the top. I'm going to bring some of that wine up along this edge too, and up along the edge here. Now we'll go back to using the ruby. So I'm just getting a bit of that blending solution and just lightly blending that wine so that it comes up into the, you don't get a hard line sitting there. So have a bit of darkness coming along here, a little bit of darkness here and here. Blending solution on my brush now, and I'll just drag that out a little bit. Darkness in here, right at the very tip of the, what do we call it, the butterfly. Just adding that in there. I'm adding some extra darkness in on this side, just so that you can see that it's the other side of the flower. Okay, so we've got two distinct edges. So this side's lighter because it's in more light, and then you've got these centre pieces which are darker so that it gives it a little bit more form. Excuse me, I'm just going to have a drink of my cup of tea. Okay, back into the ruby we go. So at this base here, it's very dark. Add a little bit of blending solution, and we're just going to pull that colour out. Bit more blending solution coming up into the lighter area, so we're just wanting to blend that colour out a little bit more. Just a little bit of dark on that spot there, on the other leaf, the other petal. Okay, so once again, grabbing our ruby, putting it very concentrated in those dark areas. And sometimes you might have to go over them a couple of times to get them as dark as you would like. So you can actually layer the colour onto here as well. So I'm just going to dip into the blending solution and I'm just going to start blending that colour up. A bit more. So this part of the leaf here where it bends over, I want to make it darker because where it bends underneath there, it's not going to hit the light like the rest of this does. So we're wanting to show that by making sure the colours are a bit darker underneath there. So again, we're going to come in with our dark here along this edge and right down into this bottom piece. Give a good amount of dark. So you don't want a lot of blending solution on your brush. You want as much straight colour as you can get on there. Dip into your blending solution and then we're going to blend that colour up. The other good thing about this, I'm noticing I'm getting very, very little lines from the blending. So this little piece here and this little piece here, I want them a little darker because it's a folded edge on the flower. This one here I'm going to make quite dark as well. And then right down into this bottom piece here is dark and up along this edge, along this edge. So saturated colour. Grab your blending stick with some blending solution on it and then just blend those colours in. So now we have some great variation of shades on this piece. I'm just going to add a few more darks into this one because I can see there's a few spots that need it. Those little pops of green in this one are quite pretty. I've just got a dark spot under here where that flower folds over. Okay. So now I've got to decide on how am I going to add some yellow into this stamen on this side. So this in particular one here has these little white spots. I'm thinking I would like to have them yellow. Got some sunshine yellow there, so I'm just going to clean up a brush. Yep, sunshine yellow. I think I'm just going to go with the sunshine yellow because it's a brighter yellow. Grab a little bit of it, a clean brush because it's still a light colour. Dip in, and I'm just going to touch some of these spots just to give it that little bit of yellow highlight. There we go. All done. Now there is a couple of things that you could do with this. You could fussy cut this out if you wanted to, and you could use it on a card, whatever it is you may like to use it on. So I'll just show you a journal of mine. So this is a journal that I'm creating at the moment. I'm very new to journal making, but I've really been enjoying it. So I'm just trying to not get that in the ink. So I've got a few papers in here and a few bits and pieces. So I could actually make this, if I cut down this top piece a bit, I could actually put this on the inside of my journal cover and make it a pocket or a sleeve that I can actually put something in behind it. So if I was to cut this and put it in one side, I could actually slip things in behind it. And that would make a nice panel on the front inside cover. Or I could do the same thing on the back. Oops. So on this back cover here, I could actually place it in here. I'd probably cut this down a little bit and I'd actually put a little punch hole in the centerpiece, and then I could make it into a pocket to slip some ephemera or a few bits of paper or whatever I decided to slip in there behind it. But yeah, so that's something else you could do with it. I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that do card making and junk journaling and all of that type of stuff who would probably know more about it than me. The only, like, I mean, if I was going to leave it like this, I would give it a background. I'd like to put a shadow underneath this bottom piece, which I just may do now so that you can see that. And I think I'm going to do it with some espresso and a bit of that honey. So I'm just going to dip in to the espresso and the honey together. I want to make sure I've got plenty of blending solution on my brush. I'm just wanting to give this a bit of a shadow. So where it sits right up close to that basket, that shadow needs to be at its darkest. And as it moves away from the basket, that shadow will get lighter. Okay, so now that looks a little bit more grounded. It's still not quite the way I would like it, but anyway, we'll just keep playing with it until I get it where I want it. I'll bring this shadow out across this way a bit further. It's getting better. So now my basket with the flowers in it's not floating in midair. It's actually got a bit of shadow on it. I still think it needs to be a little darker at that very base. So I'm just going to grab a bit of that espresso and I'm just going to tap it in because my paper's already wet and it'll actually bleed across. So just where that shadow is right on the edge of the basket, espresso, just a little bit more. I just want it to, I don't know whether you can see that moving, but it actually blends all the way. It'll actually blend as it sits there, but it just stops that basket from floating around. A little bit more alcohol and just rub that shadow out a little bit further. Like I said, it's an absolutely gorgeous stamp. Absolutely love it. So that stamp is called, I'll run that by you one more time. I need my bit of paper. It is Tulips Stamp and Colour Set. This is the Vintage Bloom Stamp and Colour Set range. There is the tulips. There is a peony. There is the daffodils, which you see we used part of the other day in my last video. And there's also a rose and a sunflower stamp and colour set. The sunflower one is just divine. I can't wait to have a bit of a play with it. I've got a couple of other ideas for it. But that's all for me tonight. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've understood what I've said in terms of when you're trying to blend your colours. This one here, I didn't listen to my own advice. Needs a little bit of green and darker green in the bottom. So anywhere that it comes in contact with something else, you're going to get cast shadow too. So you need to be, it's not just about shadow from other things. It's all like shadows from naturally from where it sits. It's also about cast shadow from other objects that might be sitting around it. So just a few things to think about when you're blending your one next. So I'm just adding a few bits of darker green in there just to change it. I could play with this for hours, to be honest with you, until I feel like it's 100%, but I'm quite happy with where it's sitting at the moment. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have and you would like to see more of my content, would you please be kind enough to hit like and subscribe? If you have any suggestions on what you would like to see from me, please don't hesitate to drop me a message and a comment, and I'm happy to answer those for you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, have a great night. I'll talk to you later. Bye.